bearings here. Can everyone see me? I'm going to start my timer because I was told I would get in big trouble if I go over. Rachel threatened to kick my ass, which happens every time I see her. I don't know why. I want to thank Adrian. That was amazing. Damn you, it was really good, and I have to live up to that. My name is Matt. Can everybody hear me? And let me get this. There we go. I also put a picture of myself up on the screen so you guys know what I look like. That is what I look like. That's me on a good day, okay? I think it's self-explanatory. I've been doing e-commerce for 25 years, and my company's called Harris WebWorks. And so I've kind of been in this game for a long time, before Shopify, before Magento, back when we were doing things in a very different way. So I have a lot of experience understanding the history of where we're at now versus where we were. So Industry 4.0, what the fuck? Sorry. What is it? And digital transformation, what is it? Again, amorphous term, as was mentioned. So I'm going to try to explain a little bit of background and clarify what I think of as digital transformation, why it's important, and give a historical perspective. And then agency growth, going up market. I'm going to tie those two concepts together. And then octopus, which is the surprise ending. So Industry 4.0, what the hell is Industry 4.0, right? Well, before we get to that, we have to know what Industry 3.0 is. And I think what's interesting is that we didn't even have this as a concept until 2011. So the Industry 3.0 concept is only 13 years old. This guy, Jeremy Rifkin, came up with it, and he was talking about the internet and interconnected stuff and new energy systems and blah, blah, blah. And not to be outdone, 4 years later, this guy says, no, man, it's Industry 4.0. So within 5 years, we started talking about 4.0 when we had just started talking about 3.0. And everyone's like, okay, what is this? What's going on? And you're going to hear a lot of people talk about Industry 4.0, and I think there's some misconceptions. So I'm going to just roll it back, because this will give us some context on where we are today versus where we've come from. So this is the late 1700s. We've essentially built machines out of wood and iron. It was the beginning of the Iron Age, and we started using steam and making shit move, and then we could attach tools to it and make stuff. That was the first version of industry. 100 years later, we got into Industry 2.0, and we started turning those steam tanks sideways. We started putting wheels on them. We started doing trains, and then we just kind of exploded in a physical world. We were manufacturing stuff, machines. And so Industry 2.0 was essentially the 1800s to the 1900s. So imagine that transformation, 2 world wars, the flight, the automobile, and it ends with the nuclear power and weapons. But essentially, this was everything kind of getting to the pre-digital phase. The digital phase is the 3.0 phase. Now, it depends on who you talk to, and all this, again, they're just making it up. So this is kind of just trying to create concepts around where we've come from so that we can get some kind of framework around where we're going. And that's why I think this is important. So the transistor was invented in 1947, but it really didn't become part of normal life for another 20 years. But this marks the kind of beginning of this movement into digital. So again, all this stuff they built mechanically was about transporting goods and also communication. So communication was a big part of this. The digital transformation world is about speeding up communication, right, and delivery of stuff. So we didn't really get into it until the 1970s. The personal computer was really where we kind of tipped. It was a tipping point. And then you have the advent of computers, internet and connectivity, renewable energy, biotechnology, mobility and logistics, and automation and robotics. So that's all Industry 3.0. So basically think about it like this. The backbone of the technology that we use today was 3.0 technology. So cloud computers, everything connected. That was the framework, the foundation, the railroads of digital. And 4.0 is the crazy shit that happens on that next. So there's a lot of businesses that still don't have like their cloud systems in place. So if you're looking at like, I'll get into this in a second, digital transformation, there's a lot of industries and companies that are still not completely 3.0 compliant. They're still using print catalogs. They're still going to trade shows. They don't have e-commerce yet, a lot of older businesses. So we're still in 3.0, even though there's components of our industry that are leaping forward and they're already into 4.0. So if you're writing a book and this is the fourth chapter, it's essentially starts with, and then things got really weird. So 4.0 is when all this shit starts to happen on this framework that we've built. And you have things like Bitcoin, you've got the metaverse, you've got the singularity, which I don't know if you guys have nerded out on that, what that means. And then you've got cloning. There's a guy that's cloning camels. That's what that other one is on the bottom. But anyway, it's the Internet of Things, blockchain, genomics, augmented reality, nanotechnology, digital twins. So basically we're creating this digital augmented version of reality that we can use to test things and store currencies and create these digital ledgers. And it's essentially evolving incredibly fast that it's hard to predict what other technologies are going to come out in the next few years. But I like to think of it this way. I think the 5 biggest companies on the S&P 500 didn't exist when I was born. So there's the 5 most biggest companies right now were basically didn't exist or they were in their infancy when I started working. And now they're the most robust sector of our economy. That is going to happen again, and it's going to happen in an exponential way. That's what I think. So exponential tech. So the reason this is important, and I went through those phases, is that stuff didn't change that fast for 100 years. Then stuff changed a little faster, and then it really started to change. So what they talk about exponential technologies is the adoption rate, the new tech versus the adoption rate versus when it actually gets into the marketplace and saturates it. And that time frame is starting to narrow. So new technologies will get into the market and quickly, like a mobile phone, within a few years, a smartphone, everybody's using it. Where it used to be like, it took 20 years for people to kind of like, start to get washing machines. So this graphic just is showing from the 1903 to where we are now, roughly, where these new technologies were coming in, and you're also seeing that there's more technologies coming in at a more rapid rate. So that's important. And then an acceleration of growth technologies also, this is illustrating like we started slowly and then all of a sudden stuff started coming in really fast. And this graphic shows where we're at now to kind of give you some context on who's running businesses and what their background is and where they were when their careers started. So baby boomers still own a lot of businesses. They're in their 60s, and a big part of the economy and the business decisions are being controlled by people who were born essentially before the internet, and they started their careers when they didn't even have computers at their desks. So they're not at all digitally native, and they're trying to make decisions in this Industry 4.0 world. And they're just really either not willing to, they don't have the context necessarily to make good decisions, and they're also aging out, and this new generation that's coming in is gonna take ownership of these businesses. And the transformation, there's like a transformation wave. This is like the calm before the storm. You have this big generational changeover, you have this massive technological revolution, and you have a lot of businesses that are gonna have to make some kind of adjustments. So my idea of digital transformation is we were in a mechanical world for 200 years. Now we're in a digital and neurological world. And what digital transformation is getting fully up to date on Industry 3.0, if you're not already. Like I said, a lot of businesses aren't, so that you can benefit from the massive 4.0 opportunities. So that's essentially what digital transformation is, in my mind. Transforming business from mechanical entities into digital organisms. It also requires a change in mindset. If you're in a mechanical metaphor or a mechanical space, you're thinking about building something physical and maximizing the value of this physical thing. If you're in a digital neurological space, you're thinking about growing and nurturing something, and it's the journey of getting better. It's not necessarily the destination of building something. I mean, we're all gonna be moving parts and stuff around. We're gonna be buying physical things. But the intelligence of a business and their ability to compete is based on the digital organism of that business on a technological standpoint, and the ownership and management of that business understanding how to evolve a business with this new context, within this new framework of thinking. The physical world is physical mechanical world is very different than what I would call a digital neurological world or a digital neurological organism or business. So that's my idea of digital transformation and the context of it. Going up market, so I've been in enterprise world for chunks of my career, going back to the 1990s. And it is a very, very different world. And you have to I would argue it sucks. That's my argument, all right? It makes sense if you want to do it, but you're gonna have to pick a lane. It's gonna be really hard to do both. The engagement process with enterprise, totally different. The implementation process, totally different. The scoping process, totally different. And I would argue there's two different types of businesses. All right, so small businesses are like Kenny Powers on a jet ski. They can turn fast, they're nimble, but they're living in the past and they're not really clear on where they're going. And frankly, in this case, you might be a little buzzed. An enterprise is a large, slow to move, slow to pivot, slow to change cargo ship. And if it gets stuck, it can block the Suez Canal and disrupt the entire global supply chain. So they have to be very, very careful. So it's a completely different entity and a structure to move and an organism to move, an organization to move. But there's tons of advantages of being small, because when things change fast, small businesses can change fast. When things change fast, large businesses can't. And like I said, the top 5 companies on the S&P 500 didn't even exist 40 years ago for the most case. So you're gonna have emergent businesses that are small now that will be enterprise. If you can get in with them, you go enterprise with them. You go up market with them. If you're trying to get in the door of an existing enterprise, you're dealing with a lot of gatekeepers and a lot of resistance. So it's gonna be tricky. And you're gonna have to change your agency model and your processes to do it. And it was gonna be really hard to maintain your SMB model and also get enterprise. So it's almost like you have to build a whole new department. So you have to be very careful and intentional. But it can happen, and there's success stories. I've heard stories from agencies that have done it here, and it's been very successful. So it's not like it's a horrible idea. I think you just have to know what you're getting into. So according to the Small Business Administration, 99% of US businesses are small businesses. Those are businesses with under 500 people. That's 33.2 million businesses. So if you think going up market is great, think of how much smaller that pool is. This is a massive opportunity. 33 million businesses is a massive opportunity. So that's a lot of Kenny Powers out there, right? And we're Team Kenny Powers, I'm not gonna lie. I like working with small businesses. I like having direct contact with owners. I like having direct contact with decision makers. And I like feeling like the work that we're doing has a direct impact and that we can turn that jet ski quickly. So our ideal client profile, just to give you some context, is manufacturers, distributors, 5 to 500 million, 20 to 70 years old. Just in our state of Connecticut, there's 4,200 manufacturers. So that gives you an idea of the scope of the opportunities out there. That's just one small little state, right? 80% of them have under 30 employees, and we're only going after SMB. In the next 10 years, my estimation is that our ideal client profile will have massive changes in ownership, strategy, and technology adoption. So those companies are going to need services dramatically in the next 10 years. And this woman kind of put it, I found this quote, it's kind of funny. 10,000 boomers retiring daily, 19% are small owners. There's my 15 minutes. See, I'm not gonna go over. I told you I wouldn't. 99% of millennial Gen X kids wanna be YouTube stars, and they don't wanna own plumbing companies. So therein lies the opportunity. Basically what she's saying is, somebody's gonna own these companies. Someone's gotta run them. There's a lot of value there. You've been in business for 40 years. You got a customer base. You got a service that's profitable. So there's gonna be consolidation. There's gonna be sales. Private equity is gonna make a big play. I wouldn't be surprised if agencies like mine in 10 years, 40% of their client base is like partnerships with private equity, who's trying to do consolidations, flips, digital transformations of these old legacy businesses. So if you want to go up market, this is my suggestion. Stick to your core and grow vertically in your niche. Understand what your niche is and do something exceptional in that niche, and you can go up market. So e-commerce for manufacturers is an example. That's what we do, but just use this as an example. Just do that and nothing else. If you want to do, and then make a name for yourself in that niche. And then someone, a decision maker in a department within that enterprise company will say, oh, these guys are best in class for this thing that we need. And then you can go up market. If you want to scale in a different way, broaden your services. So stick to your core, but add connected and supporting services. And this relates back to the digital transformation thing I was discussing. And do it through additional training or partnership. That's also when partnership comes in. You know, this ecosystem. Team up. There might be something you do really well, but then you can bring in a partner to help you out with something else. There's a little map of services that you could possibly be doing, and I just threw this together. So if you look at this, essentially, the future business that I imagine is you have a central repository of management data and AI. So this is the intelligence, this is the brain of the organization, right? And then you have all these connected services that need to feed into that brain. And you have to build like business intelligence based on that. So we're in the ERP space, we're in the PIM space, we're in the CRM space, kind of, and e-commerce, and we also do marketing. And we help businesses with marketplaces. So it can quickly get very complex. So figure out what you do and what's that ancillary, what's that next component over, and that you've heard your compliance complain about that or struggle with it. Bring that in as a kind of to build the pyramid. So you're growing vertically, but you're also growing horizontally at the same time. Okay, how does this relate to an octopus? I only did this because Rachel thinks it's funny when I put octopuses up on the screen. But it is kind of an interesting metaphor. Metaphors matter, I think, language matters, and an octopus is essentially a neurological brain. It's just neurology with tentacles and receptors. So it's just like a floating brain, imagine it. It's basically a neurological boneless brain. And they're really smart and they're kind of cool. I think they're really interesting. But I think the octopus metaphor of building an organism, your business as an organism, or your client's business as an organism, is a better way of thinking. You have to think about like, how do we nurture this thing? It's not a destination, it's a journey. So like octopus is better than machines in terms of metaphor. And then we can change the language we're using. Instead of building, repairing, cogs in the machine, retool, it's plant, nurture, grow, harvest, heal. Those are our businesses. They're instead of machines, they're actually organisms. So think of your octopus as the thing that you're building, and these services are the components, the arms of the octopus. Something's marketing, something's operations, something's channel, and these are all feeding back to the central nerve system. So there I am, the middle of the octopus. In conclusion, nurture your octopus. That's what I'm saying, right? And there's my QR code if you guys want to reach out to me. And I think I even left time for questions. So